So hi everybody, I'm Stuart, Stuart Easton. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Transparent Choice. And we're a software company, but every month we host one of these webinars where it's not about us, it's not about the software, it's just, finding somebody really interesting to invite along to talk to us. Now, I couldn't find anyone interesting this month, so we've got Helio Costa to speak with us.
Hey, I'm
Um,
going.
yeah, exactly. Okay, no. Seriously. Um,
Can tell you some people.
so Helio and so recently I was out in Riyadh at the Global Project Management Forum. I was speaking there, and while I was there, this crazy guy suddenly started waving a camera in my face and saying, "You got to tell me about the ducks. What are these ducks, right?" And so we got chatting, and it's Helio, and it turns out that Helio is a really fascinating guy, right? So he's been doing project and portfolio management, organization and system design, all kinds of things for quite a long time. Has a PhD in this stuff, in fact. Yeah, lots of gray hair there. He's a lot of fun to hang out with. That I can absolutely guarantee that. But really knowledgeable. And so a few weeks ago, we were talking about uh, how sometimes PMOs, as a community, we sometimes look inwards so much, right? We're looking at projects and templates and tools and process and all these things, and gosh, they're so important. And we forget that those things exist to support the organization's goals. And so today, what I want to do is I want to open all our minds a little bit further, broaden those horizons, and talk about the whole organization and how this thing that we think of as a PMO might continue to exist or might even morph into something else that Helio calls a VMO, Value Management Office, that's more of an enterprisey thing, right? So I'm not going to steal Helio's thunder. I'm going to let him go. But what my challenge to all of you is twofold. First of all, open your minds, right? And really think about, look at this as an opportunity to expand the way that you think about what a PMO is or could be and what its role in an organization actually is. My second challenge to you is to get involved in this webinar, right? So jump into the chat. I'm sure that Ashok will lead the way because he usually does, right? But get into the chat and give us your comments, give us your reaction, questions, right? Share your experience, and I will try and incorporate that into the conversation. I usually interrupt my guests far too much, so Helio has been warned. But if you jump into the chat, then I'll be interrupting him with your questions, not with mine. And that'll be so much more fun for you and probably for us as well. All right, so I've got those two challenges for you. Helio, why don't you just start off with just a little bit of your background and why anybody should listen to you?
Well, originally, I don't know if you know the story, my background. Originally, I'm a fighter pilot of the Brazilian Air Force. I flew there
I
for
didn't know that.
25. Yeah. I,
Wow.
I re I'm a retired colonel of the Brazilian Air Force. I flew for 25 years at the force. I flew almost everything that you can imagine, except the rockets to the moon. But almost everything that goes out of the ground and comes down from the ground, I already flown it. And But in the middle of my career at the Air Force, I went to university to study computer science, and then I started working with IT, okay? Developing softwares, networks, and things like this. And I started managing projects. It was 25, 26 years ago. And then I realized that my projects are not going well. What's happening? I studied a lot. I went to university. I know how to do a project, how to develop softwares, and I decided to do an MBA in project management. Okay. And then I realized that I didn't know anything about projects. I have to do something else. And then I started working with projects and learning and doing something, getting more experience. And then I started, oh, I had to go deeper. And then I did my master degree in project management. And then my PhD in project management, then postdoc and things like this. And I started teaching this and consulting this after quitting the Air Force. And this is my background. I studied a lot about this. I practiced a lot about this. I started creating a lot of stuff, testing things, implementing things, just like project management, process improvement, portfolios. I was a portfolio manager for years and, well, implemented PMOs and consulting all over many countries, just like 21 different countries and around 30,000 people training and consulting it. So that's my life for the past 25 years. They're involved in revising, reviewing guides like PMBOK, risk management, and PMI, being a volunteer, creating standards, creating guides, creating tools, creating models. And I'm very engaged on this process of not only managing projects that my career started, but only trying to improve how organizations manage things better. That's it. Not only projects. The project is my core, but I think we can create value in many different ways in organization. Projects is one of them. And this is when I realized that my mind blew up and said, oh, there are many ways that we can manage, can create value in that. So why only focus on projects? Projects is a great, but what about integrating many ways to create value for the organization? And this is why I'm trying to change everything in my life, not to focus on only on projects, only on PMOs, but only to VMOs. Because you're trying to deliver value. And there are many ways to deliver value, not only in projects. That's it.
So let's jump into the slides because the chat's taking off. People are starting to talk about experiences trying to set up VMOs. And I think the way that you frame a VMO is a little different to what most people do. So why don't we jump in and because frankly you could call it anything, right? Yeah. So Americo occasionally bangs on about XMOs or whatever, right? So
Okay.
the name's not so important. It's kind of what it
No,
does.
definitely it's not.
That's important.
Definitely it's not
So,
what it
so you
does.
have a very specific thing that you are calling a VMO. So why don't we jump in
Yeah.
and see what that is?
So some years ago, around 5 years ago, I created a model. It's not a framework, it's not a method. It's a model to explain how organization works in terms of how can we create value in organization. And I'm going to present to you right now. Okay. So this is the slide here.
While you're pulling it
Well,
up, so this matters because if you understand where value is created and how value is created,
that's it.
you can start to figure out what your VMO should be.
So this is the FLEKS model. Okay, it's completely free model. You can download it anywhere you want in the website here. And this is the framework. This is the model here. You see, can you see it right now?
Yep.
Okay. In the middle of this stuff here, you can see. Oh no, 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 not here, here, here. Okay, now you can do it. In the middle here, in the upper part of the model here, you have the organization. This in this block here, in this block here. Okay, you see the organization itself. And here you have the transformation side, the business transformation, projects, portfolios, programs, whatever. And on pink side here, on the right side here, you have the operations. All organizations have transformation and operation side. And when I created this model, I was a PMO, okay? And I decided that I have to create something different because I don't want only to manage the projects here because PMOs usually deals with projects. But who deals with the operations? Is it a PMO? PMO manages the human resources, logistics, no, they don't. So I have to create something different. That it's not a transition between the PMO to VMO. It's not a rebranding. I have to create a new name for that. It was 6 years ago. And I created this name here in my model, the VMO here, because the goal of the VMO is not only to manage and help projects in the blue side. I want also to manage this pink side is operation. This is why I couldn't call it PMO. This is why I call it VMO. It's not a rebranding of the PMO. I had to do this because I was not dealing only with projects. I'm trying to create value from the whole sources of organization. And the goal of this VMO in the FLEKS model is to take the strategy that is defined here and define a set of initiatives in the blue side and on the pink side and integrate them. That's the goal here. And that's the difference between my VMO and traditional PMOs that turn it into VMOs. It's not a rebranding. It's not something, oh, now I'm going to focus on value. I'm a PMO, but I'm going to focus on value delivery. Well, just like America said, if you're not delivering value before, what you are doing. So any PMO, whatever name you are, should always deliver value. But I couldn't use the PMO name because I am managing not only projects, I'm managing any initiative in the organization that helps the organization to reach the goals and implement the strategy. This is why I make the difference between my VMO in the FLEKS model and traditional PMOs.
And this is something that I think is tremendously tremendously interesting because very often, if you look at some of the PMI definitions, for example, what a project is,
Yes,
right? They talk about these temporary structures that are brought together to enable to facilitate change, cross-departmental, blah 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 blah, right?
blah, blah, blah.
And really, they're talking about this, right? They're mostly talking about this.
Yes,
Actually, most of the resources of your organization, most of the change, most of the people,
the effort.
right? And so sometimes we get a little bit, in my view, we get a little bit caught up in um, in what a PMO is for, right? And so very often this is where the PMO lives, and I think really and a lot of people when they talk about a VMO are talking about upgrading the PMO to do extra things, but they very often still think. Let me see if I can change the color here because that blue is not very visible.
Yeah, it's visible, but it's quite difficult to see.
But very often they're still thinking about it in here, and there's nothing wrong with that,
No,
right? Nothing wrong with that. That's a great thing to do. But I think what the thing that I really love in Helio's model is this entity up here, this VMO, is actually about coordinating the value here and here. And guess what? A lot of the resources that you need to deliver this are coming. Oh, you see, I've got them picked a color that is over there, are over here. And a lot of the projects, a lot of the change that's happening in the organization may not be big transformational change, but within a department, there's a lot of change going on. Is
and
that's happening here would
and
benefit.
most of the money comes from the pink side.
That's right. But a lot of the expertise on how to manage change lives over here. So this sort of this is quite natural, right? In most organizations, you start off with strategy. So this is McKinsey dragging your executives off for a 2-week strategy session, right? So
Yep.
they come and they say, oh, we're going to go and do this. And so somehow you translate that into a set of projects in order to implement the strategy. So this is the project management universe. And this is where transparent choice lives, by the way. We're the bridge that connects these two.
Yeah.
And then the output of that lands in operations or BAU, and then that flows back into the strategy cycle. Then, right, that improves results, whether it's dollars or health outcomes or whatever it is that you care about, and that feeds back into the cycle. So you go round and round and round this cycle. And so only looking at this side of the cycle is really only looking at half the picture.
Sometimes
And
less than half, Stuart. Sometimes
yeah,
less
less
than
than
half.
half. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. So the question is, the title of the talk was from PMO to VMO, right, without the BS. So let's start off. I know you've got a whole presentation, Helio, but I'm going to completely derail you, I'm afraid. So what do you think is the fundamental difference between what a PMO traditionally does and what a VMO here is doing?
The basic difference is, as I was already explaining and explained also, so I don't focus only on the blue side. That's it. That's the point. Because you have to think about the whole process. You have to think systematically about the whole organization, not only the blue side. If you don't have the broad view, and this is why the picture here is in this way, covering everything and making the transition between the strategy and both sides. I think the real VMO, just like I propose here, you must have a broad view of any source of resources or initiatives that you have to do and integrate them to reach your strategy, to reach your goal. So this is main difference. Not only think about the blue side and think about the both sides. I think a VMO here, in my point of view, it is created to support you. Some people say, I have seen some PMOs, also you have seen also, a PMO defining the rules, defining the governance, defining the models, defining what they have to do. And I really, sometimes it's necessary. But my point of view here, these guys, these guys here, okay, they're working here on BAU and projects portfolio. These guys are the means to create value. And you here as a VMO, in my point of view, you are the guys that help them to create this value. Well, you are the means of the means. You should be here to support them, to do what they need to do. They want you to do their jobs. Don't tell them what they have to do. They have the jobs. You are here to support them. You're here just to get around it's like a facilitator of the process. Some PMO do it, some of them do it very well, but I think in most of the organizations, when I see is that, oh, I'm the PMO here, I'm going to define the roles, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and you have to do this. Don't do that because they are your clients and you are here to serve them, to help them do their jobs. I created something some years ago, Stuart, that it's called DJ syndrome. Do you know the DJ syndrome?
No.
The DJ for songs?
Yeah, yeah.
Have you ever been in a party or a disco or something like this, and the DJ asked you, "What do you want to listen?"
No, you see, you're Brazilian, so you go to parties. I'm a Brit. We go out to the pub and sit there and just drink warm beer.
Yeah, yeah, some beer. Yeah, you've been there. So some people say, okay, they usually the DJs in parties they play what they want. They think you're gonna like it. And here, you don't have to do it. You have to ask them what's going to be your functions as a VMO, because you are the means of the means. You got it. That's the point. And this is called the DJ syndrome. So you don't have to define things. They have to define, and you have to implement what they need to create values that we're supposed to do.
So we've got some interesting stuff going on in the chat, which I'm going to. We may never get past this slide, Helio, which
Oh,
I'm sure you'll be absolutely fine with. Um, there was some really interesting comment here about from Richard. So Richard, I'm loving these comments. Keep them coming, my friend. Um, so he was talking about, a VMO is about making sure that you're maximizing the ROI. I mean, this is the kind of stuff I would write, right? That you're maximizing the ROI of the organization and the industry, and that can be clearly prioritized and the maximum benefit and value delivered, right? Um, and so I think the point here is that why would you only do that for the change programs? Why wouldn't you do that for the whole organization? Why wouldn't you try and maximize that investment? And I think that's the big picture message that I said we're going to challenge the assumption of what the PMO is, right?
Hmm. Yeah, so I don't think that the function of the PMO is to maximize the ROI. Okay,
I
if
do.
you read,
Right, right.
but comma, comma, here, if you read the guide in the VMO section of the guide, the goal here of my VMO is to maximize the value of the organization with and minimizing the risks of this process. This is why I have value governance here and I have risk management here. They're together. The goal here is not to maximize the ROI, but the value. Sometimes you have some return on investment, but who are your clients? Not only the organization. You see that? Sometimes the clients of organization, sometimes the clients of the VMO is not only the organization. Sometimes it's the society. Sometimes it's your partner. Sometimes it's your supplier. So it's maximize the value deliver with minimizing the risks for the whole ecosystem, not only the organization. I'm thinking about a whole ecosystem on which the organization is included. It's a little bit different.
So I want to jump on because we've got some really great comments coming in here, right? They're really great. And Mohammed, I do want to come to yours. It's not a simple question. It's a really good question. But before we get to that one, um, uh, Guy, while I outline the question, Guy, I'd love to know the model you just described. Did it work? Right. So Guy's asking, do you have any examples where you've overcome the traditional division of labor between PMO change and operations? Because very often there's kind of this brick wall, and you finish the project, you throw it over the wall to operations, and sometimes they pick it up, sometimes they don't, and so the benefits sometimes get realized and sometimes they don't. But it's kind of a disjointed thing. So do you have any examples where you've seen organizations do that successfully, integrate that process so it's not broke,
Yes,
not
yes.
disjointed? And what happened? How did they get there? And then what was the result of that?
Okay. Uh, I was working with a company in Portugal. I can say the name, of course, and it's a big company. Okay, and they have some products that they sell and rent for clients. Okay, so and this is operations of the company. Okay, this is the pink side. They sell and rent some products for a company, and they decided to create a credit card. Okay, a credit card with a chip inside that the software, and they make a connection with many partners and everything related to the products that they sell and rent for the clients. They could buy things with this credit card with the partners. They have discounts, and it was good for everyone. Okay, the partners would get more clients. The clients of the company will have discounts, and you have more clients coming for this company because they have a lot of promotions. Okay, it was a great idea. Okay, it was a great idea. They created credit card, marketized this, created software there, and this was a project. Okay, they had a project here, and they created a product here. What happened next is it. They started filling the credit cards for everyone. Thousands of clients, thousands and thousands and thousands of clients in the country. What happened? After 1 month, 1 month, this is Guy, isn't it? Guy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Guy. After 1 month, they realized that the software inside the credit card didn't talk with the commercial guys, the finance system of the company. 120 million problems in their pockets because there was no integration between these guys and these guys here. Lack of integration, completely lack of integration. 120 million euros of problems in their pockets. So when they realized that in this project, I was called there. What's going on here? How can we solve this? And we implemented kind of a VMO there. They don't call it VMO, okay? They call it integration unit. And they do exactly this. Every initiative that they're doing right now, and there are hundreds of them, okay? Not hundreds, dozens of them, they have to pass through this barrier of, is this thing integrated? Do we really have an ecosystem that create this value properly? So I've done this, okay? Another example of this, there's a social network some years ago. I think it's Social Club or something like this. I remember. It was it was a social network only for Apple. Do you remember the names to it? Only for Apple. I
Oh
think
yeah,
it's
Apple. I don't do Apple.
yeah, I don't do, but it was only work only for
Oh,
Apple.
I know the one you mean. Yes, yeah, 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 yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
it was only
carry on.
for yeah, and only for Apple, only people talking, no image, nothing there. And they created the product here. It was a project, created a product. It was a startup, and it's not launching it. Okay, launching it. What happened next?
Didn't go well.
What they couldn't afford the operations. It was too expensive, and they broke up. Complete disintegration between projects and operations of the product of the company. They couldn't afford that. So it's too expensive to support, and they broke up.
Hmm. Hmm.
You create a product and you can't support it. Lack of integration. This product could never be created. There is no value on that. And this is the goal of the value management office, to understand the whole ecosystem that the products and service operations will work on the company. Saying, is it good for us? No. Is it good for the whole ecosystem? Can we support this? So let's go. You see, there are two examples. I have lived this.
So, so, so we're going to get to sort of how do you get started in a second and come to Mohammed's question. But just super briefly. So this is really just another way. No, it's more than that. But one way to think about this is that VMO is about making sure that you're delivering the right value, you're maximizing the ROI at the right time in the right part of the business, and that value is actually landing. Now, if you were to pick up Steve Jenner's book on benefits management, that's exactly what it says, right? So this is not alien technology, folks,
No,
invading from
no,
outside the PMO world.
no, of course not.
This is the stuff that we all know we should be doing. And what Helio's done is really just kind of remind us all that business operations exists and that we need to integrate and that we need to work together. And we need to do that because partly because they are generators of demand for projects and things like that, but also because they're, for the most part, the consumers of the output, right? They are the guys who actually, projects do not deliver value. Business operations, BAU, delivers the value, right? And the projects are enabling them to deliver the value. So this story shouldn't be scary to people. This shouldn't be alien. This shouldn't be unusual. But it's an interesting way to visualize it all in one canvas. So there's a big question about how do you get started on this journey from being however you define a PMO, right? So, and Frederick Casagrande, I love Fred Casagrande out in Dubai. Um, uh, Fred talks about there being only two types of PMO: my PMO
In
and
your
every
opinion.
other PMO, right? There's my PMO and not my PMO. That's it. Because every PMO is different, right? So
Yeah.
however you define PMO today, right? If you want to take a journey towards this VMO idea, whether it's this exact idea or something that's more about delivering benefits and
Yeah.
focusing on the left side,
One thing,
how do you,
that
well, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, no, no. One thing that you're talking is the core of FLEKS model. Stuart, there is no one FLEKS model. There is your FLEKS model.
Right.
Okay. I have implemented FLEKS model in many organizations. For example, a small startup, a friend of mine, they're just using this, and this. This is their FLEKS model. Some other organizations just want to take advantage of the FLEKS using the blue side. This company here that I told you, they just implemented the VMO. Some other organizations want to improve processes using this. So there is no one VMO. This is a Lego. This is a Lego. It's a small Lego. Each icon of this in the FLEKS model, you have some tool to support. Is an AI, is a GPT, is a Excel worksheet, is a Canvas. There are many tools that support you, and there is no one FLEKS. There is your FLEKS. Okay, even in your organization, you can have many different FLEKSes. Okay, but responding to your question is, how do I configure my VMO according to your needs? I created something that is called the VMO star. Okay, what's the VMO star? It's a step, it's a 8-step process. It's a framework here that you are going to define what your VMO is. Okay, I have defined some basic functions for the VMO here, but if you want to change this, you are free to change. And if you want to configure your VMO or even your PMO, if you want to work on a PMO, I'm going to tell you something. Okay, this is that. First thing, my context, my rules. Stuart, I don't care what's written on the guides, on don't even on my guides. I don't care for the ducks. Okay, I want the value that I want to create. Okay, so my context, my rules. So what are your rules? First, define the strategic goals. What are the goals that your organization wants to reach? Okay, because depending on the goals, the functions for your VMO is going to be different because you have to support the people in your different ways. So what are the goals now that you want to reach? Okay, everything starts by this. This is intrinsically linked with your strategy, but what are the goals that we have to reach? Understand these goals. And then you define the VMO clients. Who are you going to serve? It can be your C-suite, it can be your project managers, it can be the human resource department, it can be the logistic department, it can be the lawyer department. Who are you going to serve? These guys are your clients. Because remember, you are means of the means that create value. And who are going to be your clients? And then you have to understand the jobs to be done by these guys. The theory of Christensen, job to be done. Okay, this comes from there, job to be done. And these guys, for example, 1, 2, 3 guys, project managers, process managers, C-suites, whatever. And they have their jobs. Okay, for example, project managers must create reports. Process managers must improve the processes. And then the CEO must define a strategy, whatever. These are their jobs. They have to do something. Okay. Based on that, you have to study the pains and the gains in these things that they have to do. For example, every time a project manager, every month, they have to create a report. What are the pains in creating these reports? Oh, all the data are spread over the organization. I can connect them. It's a mess. It's a lot of job to do. It's crazy for creating a report. So what are the gains that they want to improve? The process, the jobs to be done, and what are the pains in their jobs? And then you identify this pain in these gains. And then you create relievers and boosters. Relievers to minimize the pain and boosters to improve the gains on their job. If you do this, I can tell you, you don't need to prove the return on investment of your PMO because you're doing their job. You're facilitating their life. You don't have to calculate this. Usually, some people try to prove, oh, my PMO must prove the investment on the PMO is good. No, don't do that. You don't need to do that. Just serve them. And if you deliver this, they are going to see value on you. You don't have to prove on that. Because most of the time, these values, these relievers and these boosters are qualitative, not only quantitative. It is very, very tough to quantify this, but they feel that because when I define value on the guide, value, I have a small formula here. Value is the difference between the perception minus expectation. Because these clients here expect some help from you. They expect you improve their lives, minimize their pains. And when you do this, they perceive some value. They don't ask you for that. They don't want to prove you that because most of the time they are qualitative. But you have to define the expectation because these are the jobs to be done and these are the gains, the pains. And when you relieve the pains, they perceive, they realize that these pains are minimized and the gains are maximized. You meet the expectation. Your goal here is to at least equal the perception of your job with the expectation of your clients. But what they need, not you think they should do. But if the perception at the end of the process is negative, you don't deliver value as a VMO. But if the perception at the end of the process is positive, higher than the expectation, they will love you. And that's the goal here. And when you have uh, relievers and boosters here, you have to prioritize them and define with the organization what's going to be the priority, what's going to be the service that we provide, because probably you don't have resource enough to do that. And you have to prioritize and create your value proposition. Okay, according to these objectives, according to these goals, in this moment, with these clients, when this process, I have to do this because this is the set of tasks that I have to do now to maximize the value of my organization and minimize the risk for all. And then you have to plan how you're going to do this. And you have to create some indicators to measure your performance as a VMO. And while you're doing this, you have to check if the goals has changed. Because if the goals has changed, maybe you have to run the whole process again. And if you do this, I don't care what you have to do. If they want you to peel oranges, if you want you to carry bananas somewhere, I don't care because this is what they need. And you are there to serve them. Okay. This is the way I configure a PMO or a VMO. In my case, this is how I configure the VMO in the FLEKS model. And we have GPT for that. And we have dynamics of physical process that we do in a workshop of that, how we do it. Okay. So this is the way I configure the VMO. This is what you're expecting from a start, from this, from that.
So may I interrupt? I've been very good. I've been quiet for about 5 minutes now. That's
Yeah.
killing me. So Mohammed asked a question about you know the blue and the pink. They come together. There's executives above there, and executives, they're the decision makers, and so how are we going to convince them to give up some of their decision making power? That's not what's going on here, Mohammed. First of all, they're not giving up their decision-making power. We are,
No, no,
we
no,
are,
no.
we're supporting them. We're giving them what they need to be able to make those decisions and to achieve their strategy. So the first thing
Yes.
is that we're not giving up goals. But if you go back to the cycle, if you would, brilliant. So I read this as being this is how you get executives to buy in. This is how you iterate your way to VMO greatness. Right. So you first of all, you've absolutely got to understand the strategic goals,
Mhm.
and then I love this bit where you understand the pains and the gains. Right. So this is you've got your stakeholders, the guys that Helio had up here, and you understand what is their pain.
For the CEOs, for the CFOs, for
Yep.
the project managers, for
Yep.
process leaders, for everyone that interested that create value for organization. I don't care. I just serve
Absolutely.
them.
And then you figure out what could you do to improve things based on that pain.
Yes,
And then you figure out which one you can do first or you should do first. Then you do it.
that's it.
And
Find a
then
way to do it. Find a way to do it.
that's it. And then you tell everyone about it. And you wave the flag and then you do it again. And then you do it again. Now, this is great. This is a really nice, clear image. And I got to tell you that this is essentially the idea behind the PMO Global Alliance's value ring. This is essentially the idea behind Laura Barnard's impact engine system. This is, right. So this idea of a cyclical process where you focus on pain, you fix the pain, and you do it in cycles. This is not new, right?
No,
And again, like I said earlier, this is not alien technology landing from a different planet.
no, no, no.
This is really pragmatic. Do these things and good things happen, right? So if you go through these process, make sure you understand the strategic goals, understand your stakeholders and what they do, identify their pain, figure out how to relieve their pain, and then do it, right? Pick one thing and fix it. Don't try and pick 10 things, right? I think you said that when you talked about prioritizing, Helio, right?
Yeah,
Don't pick 10 things. Pick one thing, maybe two, and fix them. But do it in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days,
that's a deal. Do it. Fix it.
right? Just do it. And then,
You don't have necessarily to have a fixed function. You have to
right,
fix the things. That's it.
right.
That's the point.
And find things that you can do. If you're in a place where, as many PMOs are, if you're in a place where you don't feel like you're empowered to do anything, and nobody's interested in VMOs, nobody's interested in any of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Then just pick something that's pain for someone that you reckon you can get away with and fix it, right? Just one
Help them.
person, because then that person will go, hey, that was cool. And they'll tell other people.
Yeah.
And that makes it easier. And you do it again.
By means of this prioritization on step number 6, what I'm going to do right now.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's it. That's the point.
Absolutely. Um, so Antonio asked an interesting question, which is, I believe it should be measured. I had a new process implemented where the actual process owner team was not happy with the new value, just simplified because it's different, right? So, and then she says, I love this. So the key thing with this is that it's living and breathing, and again, it's a very similar concept to Laura Barnard's impact engine system, to the
Well,
PMO Global
can I
Alliance
make some
value.
comments about it? Can I make
Yeah,
some
yeah,
comments
of
about it?
course, please do.
Yeah. The first person I presented this in my life, it was Americo,
Yeah, yeah,
because he was a long friend of mine, 20, almost 20
yeah,
years,
yeah, yeah,
young
yeah.
friend. And
It's the
before
Brazilian
launching
mafia
this,
take it over.
I presented it to Americo. Americo, I am a PMO certified CP. Okay, I am PMO. So before launching the PMI version, it was just the PMO value ring. Okay, from America. And the first person I delivered, America, I created this. Why? Because I didn't know about the PMO guide, the PMI guide. I didn't know it wasn't released yet on that time, some years ago. Okay, they released it in December. Okay, they released in December. It was created some years ago. So before that.
Yep.
And the difference there on the PMO value ring is that in the PMO value ring, you have 26 different functions that were possible to pick up. And here, there's no 26. There can be any, not
Yeah.
these 26 functions that were defined. You can pick anything, even in process, not only in projects. In the value ring, okay, from America, it's a great friend of mine. They have only 26 possible functions related to projects because they will focus on projects. And here you can have 26,000 possible functions of the VMO. That's the point.
Which can be a problem, right? You need to
So
focus,
if,
right? Which
if
is your
this is your
prioritization.
organization, if this is your organization, remember my context, my rules.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not fixed on 26 predetermined functions because you are dealing with both sides of the world, not only projects. You see that? That's the point. So
absolutely.
it brings a flexibility. It brings a lot of possibilities, way bigger than projects.
Um, so the big thing, what I'd love to love you to spend a couple of minutes on, because I get asked again and again and again at conferences and things this question: how do I get started? What is my first step on this journey?
Which one? To implement a VMO?
Yeah, well, so if you're a PMO, right? And you want to be,
Okay.
and you want to start this journey of
Yeah.
being a VMO, being
I'm,
value oriented, and
I'm
you
going
may
I'm
end
going
up
to
here
tell
at the
you
top of the box, or you may end up a bigger thing on the blue side, or you may end up as something else, right? But how do you start? What's the first step that you would recommend?
first. Can you define the indicators on your organization that will measure the value that you are delivering?
So these are not the indicators like on time, on budget, right?
Oh, this is these guys here measure the organizational process because we are organizing the whole organization here. The projects here, the projects here have the KPIs. The process here have the KPIs. I'm talking about the indicators that measure the value delivered by the organization because we are here in this box here looking for the goals, the indicators, the strategy, and collecting data from these guys to measure the indicators that these guys here wants to measure. And we as a VMO here, we're delivering their indicators, that what they want to measure. And I have to collect data from operations and from blue and pink side to deliver the indicators that they make decisions. This is why I have indicators here. See that? So I predefining something that I think is useful, but you can change anything you want. This is why it's flex, comes from flexibility. Okay. Basic
Oh, Helio seems to have frozen. So I'll give a
management.
similar answer but slightly
That's my
different. Oh, he's back again. He's back again.
okay.
Yeah, there you
So
go.
you see that? Base it on these indicators here and in their purpose, mission, values, and futures, whatever you want, you have something here that's called change management, organizational change management. We have to create a change in the organization. And to implement, to transform, to change this PMO culture to a VMO culture, just like I propose here, it's a project to implement a change in the whole organization. And this is the first two steps. Change is going to be a project to implement a change management. Okay. And we have support, we have a GPT, we have a canvas, we have a readiness for change management in the model here. And because when you're doing this, it's going to support this transition because this is a project. This is going to be a changing process. Sometimes you have to change the culture. Sometimes you have to change the architecture of the organization. Sometimes you have to change many things, sometimes even in strategy. I've seen this before. So the first step for me is how my indicators are and what's going to be the change that I want to create. And you as a VMO can conduct this process. You as a PMO can conduct this process. You as a CEO can conduct this process. Because depending on the indicator that you have here, you can't reach your goals. You can't fulfill your mission. And what do I have to change in my culture, in my architecture, in my process? Do I have to create a new department? And this is a change management process. And based on this change management process, I'm going to show you some picture here. Here, remember, you are trying to change something, the big picture. And based on this change that we want to create, in the middle of this circle, you are the value that you want to create. And in this circle here, you have people or stakeholders, you, your partners, whatever you want, people here. People need something and they have requirements to be fulfilled and they have context. So we have to think about this change that we want to create. This is change management here because we want to create a change in our organization here. But we want to deliver values in the center of the model here. But we have to listen to the people, the stakeholders. What are the needs? What are the requirements? And what's our context right now? With this picture in your mind, you can change anything, even this, how you change from the PMO to the VMO as I am proposing. Okay? These are the two steps,
And
indicators and change management. treat this as a change management process because it is. It is. You have to consider many things.
And I think so Antonio just made an interesting thing. So basically, if quality management and PMO go hand in hand and implement a great continuous improvement process, right? That's one way of looking at this. And in some organizations it'll be quality management, in other situations it'll be somebody else in the organization. But it's that idea of the PMO teaming up with something that's kind of operational and creating this cycle. And the VMO is really just, it may not exist as an organization. It's really just, it's the facilitating
Yeah.
entity that's allowing that to happen. And it could sit in the blue area, it could sit in the pink area, it could sit up above. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't
It's
matter.
it's more, what it's doing. It's facilitating and allowing these things to happen. And
I,
so,
I had to represent the vehicle here. But it could be outside the picture. It could be outside the picture.
yeah.
Or it can be represented in the base of the picture.
And the key is, actually, if you go back to the cycle again, if you
Okay?
wouldn't mind, Helio. Sorry, I'm kind of
No,
jumping in. So this whole thing, and again, I come back to this because I get asked this question so much at conferences: is how do we get started? And it really is. This loop is this cycle is spot on. It's understand business goals, understand the pain, and then fix it. And so one of the things that we do, that we offer as an organization, is something that we call the case for change. So this is where we help you, support you in that process of identifying who are the stakeholders, what's the pain, understand the root cause of that pain so you can work out what the relievers and boosters are using Helio's terminology, and then prioritize and present that back to the executives and help them understand what the future might look like. If you could fix these things, then these pains go away, right? And
and these gains are maximized.
and the gain, absolutely, the gains are maximized. So if you're in that position, you're trying to figure out how do we get support. There you go. Lenora's just dropped the link in the chat to our case for change. Feel free to book a session, and it's a free session. It's not about our software. It's about starting this cycle, helping you start the cycle. So that's a really good way to get to a really good first step. So we're more or less at the top of the hour, Helio. One of the things I'd love to do, we're not going to get through all your slides. I think we got through 3, I think that's a record. But what I would love to do is just give you a minute to tell people how they could engage with you
Mhm.
if they are interested and would like to learn more. What would you recommend as a way that they might engage with you?
Yeah, there is a website here at the end. You can see the flexmodel.com. You can download the guides there. They're for free. There is a model. There's a guide. There's a 120-page guide, and we have the email there. You have how you get in touch with it. We can LinkedIn, and you can download the Canvas guide. And if you go to ChatGPT and you look for Flex, just like Flex here, you're gonna see a lot of GPTs there. They're all for free, but basically you can get in touch by LinkedIn or even in my website, flexmodel.com. Stuart, can I tell you something else?
Of course.
This is not a cycle. This is not a complete cycle. Why? Because these events represent 8 steps. But let's suppose you are here, you are starting the cycle by 1, 2, 3, 4, and there is a new department on your organization. You have to go back. See that? You have to go back and return the process. The events, for example, you have the same clients, and the same clients, one of these days, they find, now I have to do this. So they have different jobs, and you have to return that and check it again, how you can help them. See, these 8 steps are available for you to do it whenever you want, whenever the organization needs. There are just 8 steps. You can do that in a cycle, but you can use each number whenever you need it. They are available for you. If your job, for example, as a PMO, the organization now defines that you have to do something different, you have to go there and check it. You see that? You don't have to complete the cycle. The events can be like this and this and this and this and this and this and that. It doesn't matter. It's not a complete cycle. The 8 steps here are here for you to use them. Maybe the CEO or the process manager define, I need to measure this now. So we have to define this in the middle of a process. You see that? You don't have exactly to follow the whole process. You can follow the process, but be aware that somehow, somewhere, somewhere, you have to go to another step. So you are
Awesome.
free to use it whenever you want.
Awesome. So I have one more little thing I'd love to comment on, and then we're going to have to wrap it up because we are at the top of the hour. So maybe jump back to the FLEKS
Square?
model. Yeah, to the square. There we
Okay.
go. Um, so I have one piece of advice that I always give to project managers, PMO leaders,
Mm-hmm.
who say, how can we start this journey? I think, Helio, you were pretty right on. Focusing on the indicators and and understanding the business, right, is absolutely key. You cannot do any of this if you do not understand the business. What are the key drivers of the business? What's the strategy of the business? What are the pain points in the business?
What
So,
we what kind of information we need to make decisions.
yep,
That's it.
exactly. So my advice is, before you do anything else, just reach out to people across the organization who are maybe at a similar level to you, maybe slightly higher level than you. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, can we have a coffee?
That's it.
Right? Take them
In your
through.
case, in your case, a cup of tea.
It is a cup of tea. I don't do coffee either. I'm terribly boring, Helio. So I do ducks, right? We have a nice little collection.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But the point is, if you go and engage people and just say, hey, listen, I want to be able to serve the organization better. Can you tell me what you do? Can you tell me what the problems are? Why do you do it like that? Right? What are the opportunities for improvement? Right? And just learn as much as you can about your business. And
That's it.
then everything that Helios talked about today becomes so much easier. So that's absolutely that's the advice that I give everyone. Just get out there and learn about the business. So Helio, I really go on. Let's get round of applause for Helio because I don't know about you, but I think this was a challenging idea. It was sort of stretching what we're comfortable of thinking about when it comes to PMOs and what a PMO could be. I'm not worried about the VMO name or anything like that, right? That's not what's important here. What's
No.
important, what's important is this idea of connecting together both sides of the
Listen
business,
to you. Yeah.
listening and connecting it to the goals of the organization. And my personal view is that the PMO, VMO, call it whatever you like. There's this entity that lives there that is the job is to help maximize the return on investment in the organization. However you measure return, if you're a hospital, you're going to measure it in health outcomes. If you're a tax office, you're going to measure it in terms of tax receipts and cost per $1 billion collected or something, right? So it doesn't
And
matter.
this is why, Stuart. This is why I'm sorry for interrupting. This is why I don't use the return on investment of the organization because sometimes the organization is not measured by its return, but by the value they deliver.
It's the value, that's right. And so it's a very tricky. This is why we do the ducks and the eggs, right? Because
That's it.
it's how much egg do you get for the money you spend? That's that
Yeah.
fundamental. what it comes back to. So, so awesome. Helio, thank you very much for doing this.
My
It's
pleasure.
it's been really interesting. I hope people will reach out to you and look for support. Download the documentation, have a good look through it, and reach out and connect to you directly. Please watch out for the next webinars and our monthly newsletter. The next webinar is a demo webinar. We're going to have a special guest on the demo webinar. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but we're going to have a special guest on the webinar. So come along and see who we've got. And then next month we'll be doing another session, which I think, Lenora, keep me honest, is on strategy and what is strategy for PMOs. If I've got it right, I've probably got that wrong. So watch out for the newsletter, and we'll tell you what it really is. But come along, have some fun. If you come every month, then in a year's time you'll be smarter than you are today. Thank you very much, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.